So I think it's fair to say that as Yu-Gi-Oh players, we're all very big critics of Konami. We've been playing this game for a long time, and we have very strong thoughts and feelings towards products, decks, cards, prices, tournaments, the whole nine yards. I'm certainly no exception to this. I talk about Yu-Gi-Oh and Konami a lot on this channel, and so I do think that it's only fair when Konami does things right, when they make improvements to the Yu-Gi-Oh experience, that we acknowledge those things and give them credit. And that's something that I think Konami's actually been doing a good bit of here in this last few months, or so I feel anyway. So I kind of made this list of stuff that I think Yu-Gi-Oh's done really well recently that seems promising. And also, of course, we're going to be a little bit critical here. And sort of, I've got a list of things that I think maybe Yu-Gi-Oh could still improve on, or sort of some like big question marks I have for like, what does this mean? Is this like a fluke? Is it an intended thing? And as always, at the end of the video, I would love to hear what you guys think about the entire situation, what you feel Konami deserves on its, Yu-Gi-Oh report card, what's still not so great, what's actually surprisingly good. So, yeah. So there's a lot here, so I'm gonna try to go kind of quickly. And don't worry, this is definitely not the second time I'm recording this or anything. So, first big one is the last two ban lists have had a very distinct flavor to them, which is they are really kind of going for the throat of the annoying cards, I want to say, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, it's a ban list. Obviously, everybody's got totally different opinions on what should or shouldn't get hit, what is or isn't the problem. There's never going to be a ban list that completely satisfies all players. That's impossible. But I think that Konami has been doing some things that I just never expected them to do myself, like personally. The first one being hitting Floodgate cards. Floodgates have always been a pretty strong thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! And people have very strong opinions on them. And I just didn't think I would ever really see the day that Konami would like start limiting and even in some cases banning Floodgates. There can be only one, Rivalry of Warlords, Summon Limit, Anti-Spell Fragrance, all of these cards that can really be very oppressive to play against. Now, like I said, some people like floodgates. They feel that they're a necessary evil. It's what you need to slow the game down because a lot of today's modern decks can play so many cards, do so much summoning, so much searching, make huge boards. It's only fair that we have floodgates to kind of rein that in. But we've also seen the sort of opposite effect where like even some of the top decks can search and set a floodgate or something like that. We saw top tier decks use cards like Mystic Mine when that was legal. We've seen decks like Snake Eye make great use of stuff like Summon Limit. And no one really, I think, truly loves playing floodgate cards, like playing against them. Certainly it's fun to kind of watch your opponent suffer on the other end of the table, but we all know that Yu-Gi-Oh is not great when we're not getting to play it. It's convenient if it's like us who's getting to play and our opponent who's not, but I think that players in general seem to not like floodgate cards, and Konami has finally kind of gone for the jugular and really just taken a lot of them off the table as like a super viable full deck option sort of thing. Will we eventually see them all banned? Who's to say? But I think this is a really big start into something I didn't expect to see. And then the second part is the Omni Negate Synchro monsters in Barone and Borlode Savage Dragon. I have gone at length discussing why I do not really like these cards. I think that they kind of soil deck building originality and stuff. Like you have a cool archetype, but because it can make Barone or Borlud Savage Dragon, it's better to make that than your deck's actual in-theme boss monster. I feel this way about other cards like Apollosa and stuff as well. So it's not just these two cards, but I really didn't think Konami was gonna have the cojones to actually go in and like ban these two cards. And the exact reason why they did it is totally unclear. It could just be a Snake Eyes thing and not actually because these cards have by and large kind of run the game for the last few years. But either way, I'm still pretty happy with the hit. It makes me wonder if something like Apollosa is sort of also in the line of fire, if maybe they were trying to go for cards that stop spell and traps as well, because like Omni Negates sort of have that privilege, that power where like they can actually stop evenly matched and lightning storm. So at that point it sort of feels like they're defeating the counterplay to those sorts of cards, and that's like a little weird. And it's not like there aren't still plenty of Omni Negates left in the game. You still got, Herald of Ultimate Nest or Therian King Regulus or any number of, other cards, but at least they do seem to be more niche, whereas the really big staple ones are gone for the time being. Now, this isn't like a perfect solution. There's always going to be, long combos and strong boards. I don't think that that's like going away. It just seems like the two biggest offenders are at least out of the way. And there's something to be said about the fact that like Barone was reprinted in Rarity Collection and made very accessible for more like kind of casual or budget players who were a bit behind the curve on having it. And so now to finally get it and then have it get like banned shortly after, leaves a bad taste in people's mouth. I would argue that I think that like the two things are exclusive. Like I think that them printing Barone and Rarity Collection and then them making the decision to ban it were like not related. I don't think that there was like any malicious intent there. It just sort of happened that way. But that really all depends on like how charitable you want to interpret the whole thing. So I'm not gonna, argue one way or another. Just something to point out. Either way, though, just seeing these ban lists kind of take this direction is not something I expected to see, but it seems like it's for the general overall health of the game. I like that direction. Love to hear what people have to say about that, but we've got a list to get on with. So the next thing is the rarity distribution in Legacy of Destruction seems promising. As you guys know, the new 10-pay dragon deck it's going to be like launching in this set in Legacy Destruction, and it's looking like it's going to be a really powerful new deck. It's an interesting and different one because it's battle phase based, which is kind of refreshing to me personally. I feel like the battle phase has lost a lot of its importance in Yu-Gi-Oh! And so to see a potential top tier like contender making use of the battle phase as opposed to just the usual kind of long combos and just shutting the opponent out is cool. But more importantly, the fact that most of the Tempeh cards are actually commons and like super rares, and they have like one ultra rare card is very nice to see. It's a very night and day difference from looking at the Snake Eye deck where you had to have like three Diabell Star and three Wanted and Bonfire was expensive and they're like SP Little Knight and all these things, and the deck core could cost you $1,000. This seems like it's going to be a lot more accessible, and a lot of players tend to like those sort of go second battle phase style of decks like Heroes and Cyber Dragons because it lets you sort of feel like you're getting to play more of an anti-meta strategy. At least that's the sentiment I've noticed in players, and so making those cards be easy to get is a good thing. I know that there's still the sort of elephant in the room of like Trident Dragion, but I feel like that's almost certainly going to get reprinted in like an OTS pack soon, or maybe the Rarity Collection, or just something like that. So that won't be an elusive thing forever, and at least you only need to have one of it. So that's refreshing. The next thing, speaking of rarities, is actually the Rarity Collection products. So we got the first one last November. It was a huge, wild success. I think you can't even actually overstate just how big of a deal the first Rarity Collection product was. So many players were finally able to get their hands on staples that they had been missing out on for years. You can finally get your Prosperities or your Extravagance, or you can finally get your, like Triple Tactics Talent and Imperms and Evenlies and just all of these like staple cards, including Barone, which did go on to get banned. But again, but the point is, Rarity Collection was huge. It did so much to kind of help revitalize. Yu-Gi-Oh had some rough products last year, and like card shops are starting to not stock it anymore and things like that. And so I think that this really helps to make Yu-Gi-Oh products that people would actually go to their card shop and buy and open and trade. And I think it like helped a lot of local scenes, at least for my card shop around here. I saw a lot of people opening it, trading it, trying to get their favorite cards and their preferred rarities. And I think it was really fun. And so it seems like that hype is sort of leading into Rarity Collection 2, which we still don't have very much information on yet, but like it seems promising if Rarity Collection 1 is anything to go on. So I would like to sort of see, I don't want to say more Rarity Collections. I'm not sure how many more of them they can really do, but I like the approach. I think that it deserves kudos. So yeah, Rarity Collection is definitely a plus. I also like the support recently of Edison format. So Konami's always been a little bit hands off with supporting the whole like alternate formats thing. Edison seems to be the one that they give the most attention to. They kind of have done the same with Goat, but like they actually are doing the Edison format like events at YCSs where like they're their own separate thing. They've made dedicated play mats for it. Like I saw the Super Nimble Mega Hamster mat. That's like obviously a pretty prominent Edison format card. So they definitely are acknowledging that people are in fact like playing Edison format. In fact, I think that the re-release of Light of Destruction, the set from like 2008, 2009, yeah, 2008. Anyways, the reprint of Light of Destruction is great because like Lightsworn's got new support in the latest set. Cool. So you can get your Lightsworn cards again. But also it reprints a lot of really valuable Edison format like cards like Raikou and Substitoad that really need reprints and just need to get like circulating again. So I'm interested in seeing if maybe they'll continue doing something like this. Will they continue to release like 5Ds era sets? Maybe they'll do like a reprint of Legendary Collection 5Ds. I think that would be a really cool answer to this because it's actually got Trident Dragion in it. It's got, some of the other cards like Magical Android that sort of need those reprints and stuff. So maybe re-releasing that like how they did the Legendary Collection last year for the 25th anniversary. There could be something there. Don't know. Um, so yeah, them supporting Edison format I think is a good thing. And I mean, people really love their relaxed, old school, slower paced formats. It's a good thing. The next thing is kind of a quick one that not too many people necessarily know about, but I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel has been doing a great job on two different fronts. The first is they've been getting a little bit more creative with the events that they run in Master Duel. So Master Duel has started doing like they did like a GOAT format sort of duel trial thing, and that was really fun. They did that Nibiru format where like every duel starts with Nibiru in hand. I think that was kind of a fun, quirky little approach to playing like a festival. So they're doing well on that front, but actually the Master Duel Challenger Cups are something that I really wanted to draw attention to because I think that they are something I wanted to see in Master Duel from the outset, which is these Konami run and like hosted tournaments that content creators can then stream and like any player can just enter. They're free. They do them on like Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. So basically, if you want to spend your weekend, playing Master Duel against other people and getting some prizes, like they have the plush rescue rabbits, they got the Master Duel sleeves, they got like Master Duel hoodies and stuff that you can win. You can actually win this jacket that I'm wearing right now in this video. It's got Master Duel on the back. You can't see it, but anyway, yeah, I've kind of I'd said like when Master Duel came out, I wanted them to have like a not a circuit necessarily, but just a way for people to really like play Master Duel and compete and just enjoy the game. And I felt like because Master Duel itself, like the game only offers like the ranked ladder, which is very impersonal, and then the Duelist Cups where it's like basically slaving away with no food and drink for 72 hours or whatever. Like this is a nice middle ground. I enjoyed the ones that I hosted. I'm not being like sponsored or paid to like say that you should definitely do them, but more like, I think that just it's a cool thing. So yeah, the next thing is Yu-Gi-Oh! Neuron. So this is a small one. Not that many people know about the Neuron app. In fact, we still get questions in our videos to like what the app we're even using is, but it's basically just a life point calculator app. It's cool though because you can actually use it now to look up local game stores near you and look up like regionals and YCS events that are happening. So it's kind of a source of Yu-Gi-Oh news. And now recently Konami is taking steps to make it where like they're gonna phase out the COSI IDs and allow you to just sign up for tournaments in like the app and like submit your deck list and stuff in there. So I think that's like a really nice step forward technologically and modernizing the game, the experience, and being able to check your rounds on there would be cool. So I think that's really a neat thing. Very good. Okay, that's all the good stuff. Now it's time to talk about what I'm not going to call the bad stuff, but the stuff that I think could still use a little bit of work in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. Um, I'm going to try not to make this just like a negative rant where it's like, oh, Konami's killing the game in all these different ways. That's not true. I know they're like trying. It's not always going to be perfect, but I still think that communication could be better. I think that Yu-Gi-Oh has always kind of been lacking in the communication department. The Yu-Gi-Oh social media is not exactly what you would call like friendly and fun and like interactive. It's kind of just, here's the new product, buy it. But more than anything, I think that it would just be nice to get a little bit of acknowledgement around like maybe ban lists and stuff like that. Like we still don't really know when new ban lists are going to come out, and that feels like that's always such a pain point for the community because it's like when is Konami going to release it? Is it going to be this day? Is it going to be this day? And it ends up being like a random Tuesday afternoon, or maybe it's a Saturday in the middle of a tournament or whatever. And I know in the OCG they actually let them know in advance when their ban list is going to be revealed and like go into effect and stuff. As of their most recent like April list, they got that, and I think that would be kind of cool for Konami. I know why they didn't like we used to have like set ban list dates. It was like, okay, March 1st, September 1st, this is when the new ban lists are going to come out. I know that Konami seems like they've sort of um experimented with just different ways of doing the whole ban list thing. The way they have it now certainly allows them more flexibility with like when they release it and what cards they hit so they don't feel like they're like stuck to a deadline and they can address things in a more fluid manner. I just think that we should still at least know like what date to expect things because the next list update will be in a few months. I don't love that. Banless patch notes would also be really nice to have, but I've started to just feel like Konami probably will never do that, and I might be just expecting too much. It's a shame, really, because most modern games these days, like that do patches, will have like patch notes of some kind. Like if your favorite, hero or champion or whatever in this game got nerfed or buffed, there's usually like a developer diary that sort of tells you why or what the general idea or just sort of philosophy with the ban list or the patches in that case were. With Yu-Gi-Oh, who knows? Maybe if they said like that players would just get too angry and belligerent about it. I mean, you can look at the comment section of pretty much any social media post on a Konami Yu-Gi-Oh account. It's never really positive. So, if they said, oh, we banned summon limit for this reason, then someone's gonna be like, well, technically skill drain does the same thing, so like why isn't that banned? Or so there would always be like a lot of that. But I still think it would just be nice to get a little bit more communication on Konami's end. Okay, next thing is I think that onboarding, Yu-Gi-Oh onboarding is still very lacking. We don't really have a great, sort of on ramp for players to learn about how to play the game and get involved with it. It feels like it's just so intense now. Like with Yu-Gi-Oh, it's kind of this niche game, and because of power creep, because the game is just so many effects are going on, so many rules are there to like you have to like learn rules and rulings and all these things. It's like you're either in or you're out, right? Like if you've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh a long time, then all of this stuff is just second nature to you. You know how pendulums and links work, you know how weird chain stuff works. There's certain rulings that just like, because Konami said so, you're aware, you're fine. But getting new people in, there's not really an avenue to do that. The two-player starter deck that they released earlier this year, you guys know I do not love that product. I don't think it did a very good job at what it set out to do. It doesn't explain all the different summoning types. It doesn't include a mat in the box. You can watch my video for my full details. Um, yeah, I think that that was a bit of a miss of a product, and it doesn't seem like there's really much of anything else. I mean, there are speed duel products, and I do think that they're probably the best thing that we've got, but like even that's looking like it's kind of on the fritz. I'll talk about that here more in a second. But like, yeah, I don't think that there's an easy way for a person to get onboarded into Yu-Gi-Oh! I'd like to maybe see some sort of a local league system. Like Konami's got the OTS system, and I do think that that's good. I think OTS packs are good. I think the Lost Art promotion's good. I would just like to maybe see something like a league system is something I've seen a lot of other card games do pretty successfully, and it's great for like encouraging people to bring friends to the card shop and like trade more and stuff like that. So that'd be kind of cool. Also, I think that the power creep problem is still kind of it's here. I don't think I've kind of forsaken the idea that like Yu-Gi-Oh can be like saved in this regard. Like the power creep is it's gonna power creep, right? We've got really strong cards now. You've got Cashdera Finra is seen as like a normal thing now. Like that's the new Cyber Dragon, right? It summons itself. It's huge. It banishes. It searches. And that's like the power level we're working on. Most monsters have like three effects. Poplar does this, this, and this. Diabellstar does this, this, and this. And other archetypes like all have cards like that. Rescue Ace, Preventer, Turbulence, or Lady Labyrinth. Like every deck's kind of got cards that just do a little bit of everything. So the power creep problem, I don't think it's not going away anytime soon. And some people really enjoy that. So I don't want to just say it's like outright bad. Like a lot of people enjoy kind of the modern competitive landscape of Yu-Gi-Oh! The hour turn thing. That's another like part where like some people hate it, but some people actually enjoy it because it kind of makes the game more dynamic and interactive. And like you can play in their turn and your turn and cool, great. My main complaint comes now from just I wish that there was a lower power level format. So, like we've got Edison and Goat, but what if I want to play a deck like Dual Avatar or a deck like Magic Keys or War Rocks or Mutants, where it's kind of these lower power level decks that aren't strong enough to really compete in the modern game, and they don't have like an hour turn thing very much and all of that. Where do I play those? Like, where can those be played? Is there like a format? I mean, Konami's kind of talked about Heart of the Underdog format, but they kind of leave the onus on the card shops to just figure that out themselves. My suspicion for that is like, well, Konami can't say what decks are and aren't allowed in Heart of the Underdog because that would be like a tacit like admission that some decks have been made better than others, and they probably don't want to get into that. But I do think that there just needs to be something where you can play those lower power level decks and maybe not have to, have the game end in like a turn or two or have like the 10-minute long turn. So that'd be something neat to explore. I hope that they can do that. And then there's sort of some miscellaneous stuff that I didn't really have a category for. It's just like the weird stuff that's been happening this year. So like, Speed Duel, Midterm Destruction not releasing in Europe is like a little fishy and suspicious. Like, does it mean the end of Speed Duel? Does that mean that we'll get Rush Duel? I don't really think that that's really going to happen. I think that Speed Duel might just have underperformed so much that they're going to be getting rid of it. Which again, I hope that doesn't, like, I hope they don't get rid of Speed Duel, but it looks like that's like maybe the way that it's going. So, or maybe Europe will be getting it soon, and that would be great. Also, that lack of European YCS events is like worrying. I mean, I know that YCS events typically they're not like super profitable. They sometimes like run at a loss, but I would still, I mean, Konami hasn't really announced too many of those, and some European players are kind of, concerned about that. There's also the fact that like Worlds this year is private. Like you can't go to Worlds. There's not going to be a stage or anything like that, which is a bit of a shame because it's supposed to sort of be the premier like international Yu-Gi-Oh event, and we're just gonna have to, I guess, watch the live stream from home. That feels like that's gonna be a little underwhelming and like odd. But maybe they'll give some more details on this. They said that there's gonna be a way to like do it at your local game store, so maybe you can play for like the World's mat or something, or play in the World's format. But I still think that's a bit of a shame because like the World's events that I've attended, I've gone to Germany in 2019 and Japan in 2023, and they were really cool events. Like there was a certain kinetic energy of like being, watching it occur on stage and like being there. And so the fact that it's finally back in the United States, but then they've told us that we can't go and like see it if you wanted to fly out and travel and observe and stuff. Uh, a little yuck. I would like to maybe know more, but we don't get that level of communication from Konami, so it's a little disappointing. And then finally, there's just sort of the question marks. Like, there are good things, but we can't be sure if they're just happy coincidences and what they mean for the future. Like, is Tenpei being a low rarity archetype like gonna be something that continues? Is that gonna be a trend in the next few sets, or is it just kind of a one-time thing? They just wanted it to be this way this time, and it won't happen again, right? Like, is Rarity Collection 2 actually gonna be a good set? And then like, what happens with the tins and stuff later this year? Because like last year's tins weren't good, and it feels like Rarity Collection and the tins are now sort of competing a little bit for like what the better reprint set or the good value set like is, and so that's a little strange. There's just question marks, and so I don't want to like be negative or sort of anything like that. Like this isn't meant to be a rant. It's just like who knows? You can't ever be sure that things that look good are necessarily like going to continue. But we do know, if nothing else, that Konami is trying, and I want to give them credit for that because I've met people who work at Konami. I know that they really do have a lot of passion for Yu-Gi-Oh! There are real human beings working at that company. They're trying their best. Sometimes, some things just aren't feasible, or sometimes progress is really slow. But when I see these little things like the kind of ban list approach and stuff like that, I do have some hope for the future of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think that that's really good. So now I want to hear from you guys down below in the comments. What is, your Konami report card grade? What are things you think that they have done well? What are things that they have maybe not done so well and you would like to still see improvements in? And let's try to, not just say things like, "Oh my God, they've just ruined modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Should go back to 2002 with LOB." No, like I'm talking about like what are sort of tangible things that you as a modern player want to see and stuff that you've been happy with or whatever. So yeah, okay, it's gonna be it. It's been a very long video, and I've had to record it twice now. So certainly give it a thumbs up and a like and a share and everything else. And I will see you guys in the next video. Fast turn.